Arthur Conan Doyle, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Chapter 3. The Problem. I admit that when I heard these words, a shiver went through me. There was something in the doctor's voice which showed that he himself was deeply affected by what he was telling us. Holmes leaned forward in excitement, and his eyes had the hard, dry shine that appeared when he was very interested. "You saw this?" "As clearly as I see you." "And you said nothing?" "What was the point?" "How was it that no one else saw it?" "The marks were about 20 yards from the body, and no one paid attention to them. I do not think that I would have done so if I had not known the legend." "There are many sheepdogs on the moor?" "No doubt, but this was no sheepdog." "You say it was large?" "Enormous." "But it had not come close to the body?" "No." "What kind of night was it?" "Damp and cold." "But it was not actually raining?" "No." "What is the alley like?" "There are 2 rows of old yew hedges, 12 feet high and impossible to get through. The path in the middle is about 8 feet wide." "Is there anything between the hedges and the path?" "Yes, there is a strip of grass about 6 feet wide on each side." "I understand that the yew hedge is broken at one point by a gate?" "Yes, the small gate which leads onto the moor." "Is there any other opening?" "None." "So to reach the yew alley, one must either come down it from the house or enter it through the moor gate?" "There is an exit through a summer house at the far end." "Had Sir Charles reached that?" "No, he was lying about 50 yards from it." "Now tell me, Dr. Mortimer, and this is important, the marks you saw were on the path and not on the grass?" "No marks could be seen on the grass." "Were they on the same side of the path as the moor gate?" "Yes, they were at the edge of the path on the same side as the moor gate." "You interest me very much. Another point. Was the small gate closed?" "Closed and locked." "How high was it?" "About 4 feet high." "Then anyone could have climbed over it?" "Yes." "And what marks did you see near the small gate?" "None in particular." "Good heavens! Did no one examine it?" "Yes, I examined it myself." "And found nothing?" "It was all very confused. Sir Charles had clearly stood there for 5 or 10 minutes. "How do you know that?" "Because the ash had fallen twice from his cigar." "Excellent. This is a colleague, Watson, after our own heart. But the marks?" "He had left his own footprints all over that small area of gravel. I could see no others." Sherlock Holmes struck his hand against his knee with an impatient movement. "If only I had been there," he cried. "It is clearly a case of great interest, and one which offered huge opportunities for a scientific expert. That gravel surface, from which I could have read so much, has long since been spoiled by rain and damaged by the boots of curious villagers. Oh, Dr. Mortimer, to think that you did not call me. You truly have much to answer for. I could not call you in, Mr. Holmes, without revealing these facts to the public, and I have already explained my reasons for not wishing to do that. Besides, why do you hesitate? There is a field in which even the sharpest and most experienced detective is powerless." "You mean that the matter is supernatural?" "I did not clearly say that." "No, but you clearly believe it." "Since the tragedy, Mr. Holmes, several events have come to my attention which are difficult to explain by the normal laws of nature." "For example?" "I have learned that before the terrible event happened, several people saw a creature on the moor which matches this Baskerville demon, and which could not possibly be any animal known to science. They all agreed that it was a huge creature, glowing, horrible, and ghost-like. I have questioned these men carefully, one a sensible countryman, one a farrier, and one a farmer from the moor. and they all tell the same story about this dreadful sight, exactly matching the hellhound of the legend. I assure you that there is great fear in the district, and that only a brave man would cross the moor at night. And you, a trained man of science, believe it to be supernatural? I do not know what to believe. Holmes lifted his shoulders. Until now, I have limited my investigations to this world, he said. In my own modest way, I have fought against evil, but to take on the father of evil himself might be too ambitious a task. Still, you must admit that the footprint is something real. The original Hound was real enough to tear out a man's throat, and yet it was also devilish. I see that you have completely joined the believers in the supernatural. But now, Dr. Mortimer, tell me this. If you truly hold these views, why have you come to consult me? You tell me at the same time that it is useless to investigate Sir Charles's death and that you want me to do so. I did not say that I wanted you to do so. Then how can I help you? By advising me what I should do about Sir Henry Baskerville, who arrives at Waterloo Station, Dr. Mortimer looked at his watch, in exactly 1 hour and a quarter. He is the heir? Yes. After Sir Charles's death, we searched for this young gentleman and discovered that he had been farming in Canada. From the reports we have received, he is an excellent young man in every way. I am speaking now not as a doctor, but as a trustee and executor of Sir Charles's will. There is no other claimant, I assume? None. The only other relative we have been able to trace was Roger Baskerville, the youngest of 3 brothers, of whom poor Sir Charles was the eldest. The second brother, who died young, was the father of this young man, Henry. The third, Roger, was the black sheep of the family. He had the strong and wild Baskerville nature and was said to look exactly like the old family picture of Hugo. He made England too dangerous for himself, fled to Central America, and died there in 1876 of yellow fever. Henry is the last of the Baskervilles. In 1 hour and 5 minutes, I will meet him at Waterloo Station. I have received a telegram saying that he arrived at Southampton this morning. Now, Mr. Holmes, what would you advise me to do with him? Why should he not go to his family home? It seems natural, does it not? And yet consider that every Baskerville who has lived there has met with a bad fate. I feel sure that if Sir Charles had been able to speak to me before his death, he would have warned me against bringing this last member of the old family and heir to great wealth to that deadly place. And yet it cannot be denied that the future of the whole poor and lonely countryside depends on his presence. All the good work that Sir Charles has done will fall apart if there is no master at the Hall. I am afraid that I may be influenced too much by my own clear interest in the matter, and that is why I bring the case to you and ask for your advice. Holmes thought for a short time. To put it simply, the matter is this, he said. In your opinion, there is a devilish force that makes Dartmoor an unsafe place for a Baskerville. That is your opinion. At least I would go so far as to say that there is some evidence that this may be true. Exactly. But surely, if your supernatural theory is correct, it could harm the young man in London just as easily as in Devonshire. A devil whose powers are limited to one small area like a local council would be too impossible to imagine. You speak more lightly about the matter, Mr. Holmes, than you might if you had personal experience of these things. Then your advice, as I understand it, is that the young man will be as safe in Devonshire as in London. He arrives in 50 minutes. What would you suggest? I suggest, sir, that you take a cab, call away your spaniel who is scratching at my front door, and go to Waterloo to meet Sir Henry Baskerville. And then? And then you will say nothing to him at all until I have decided what to do. How long will it take you to decide? 24 hours. At 10 o'clock tomorrow, Dr. Mortimer. I would be grateful if you would come to see me here. and it will help me in planning what to do next if you bring Sir Henry Baskerville with you." "I will do so, Mr. Holmes." He wrote the appointment on his shirt cuff and hurried away in his strange, curious, absent-minded way. Holmes stopped him at the top of the stairs. "Just one more question, Dr. Mortimer. You say that before Sir Charles Baskerville's death, several people saw this figure on the moor. 3 people did. Did anyone see it afterward?" "I have not heard of anyone." "Thank you. Good morning." Holmes returned to his chair with a quiet look of inner satisfaction, which showed that he had an interesting task before him. "Are you going out, Watson?" "Unless I can help you." "No, my dear friend. It is when action is needed that I turn to you for help. But this case is wonderful, truly unique in some ways. When you pass Bradley's shop, would you ask him to send up a pound of the strongest shag tobacco?" "Thank you. It would be better if you could arrange not to return before evening. Then I would be very glad to compare our thoughts about this most interesting problem that has been brought to us this morning." I knew that isolation and quiet were very important to my friend during those hours of deep thought, when he examined every piece of evidence, created different theories, compared them, and decided which details were important and which were not. I therefore spent the day at my club and did not return to Baker Street until evening. It was nearly 9 o'clock when I found myself again in the sitting room. My first thought as I opened the door was that there was a fire, because the room was so full of smoke that the light of the lamp on the table was blurred. As I stepped inside, however, my fear disappeared, for it was the sharp smoke of strong, rough tobacco that caught my throat and made me cough. Through the smoke I could just see Holmes in his dressing gown, curled up in an armchair with his black clay pipe in his mouth. Several rolls of paper were lying around him. "Have you caught a cold, Watson?" he said. "No, it's this poisonous air." "I suppose it is rather thick now that you mention it." "Thick? It is unbearable." "Then open the window. You have been at your club all day, I see." "My dear Holmes." "Am I right?" "Of course, but how?" He laughed at my confused expression. "There is a pleasant freshness about you, Watson, which makes it enjoyable to use my small powers at your expense. A gentleman goes out on a rainy and muddy day. He returns in the evening perfectly clean, with the shine still on his hat and boots. Therefore, he has stayed indoors all day. He is not a man with close friends, so where could he have been? Is it not obvious? Well, it is rather obvious. The world is full of obvious things that nobody ever notices. Where do you think I have been? Also indoors? On the contrary, I have been to Devonshire. In spirit? Exactly. My body has remained in this armchair, and has, I am sorry to say, used up 2 large pots of coffee and an unbelievable amount of tobacco while I was away. After you left, I sent to Stamford's for the ordnance map of this part of the moor, and my spirit has been flying over it all day. I believe I could now find my way around it. A large-scale map, I suppose." "Very large." He unrolled one part and held it over his knee. "Here you see the exact area that concerns us. That is Baskerville Hall in the center." "With a wood around it?" "Exactly. I imagine that the yew alley, although not marked by that name, must run along this line, with the moor, as you see, on the right side. This small group of buildings here is the village of Grimpen, where our friend Dr. Mortimer lives. Within a distance of 5 miles, as you can see, there are only a few scattered houses. Here is Laughter Hall, mentioned in the story. There is a house marked here which may be the home of the naturalist, Stapleton, if I remember correctly. Here are 2 farms on the moor, High Tor and Foulmire. Then 14 miles away is the large prison at Princetown. Between and around these few places stretches the empty, lifeless moor. This, then, is the stage on which the tragedy has taken place, and on which we may help to act again. It must be a wild place. Yes, the setting is suitable. If the devil wished to interfere in human affairs, then you are beginning to believe in a supernatural explanation? The devil's agents may be made of flesh and blood, may they not? There are two questions before us at the beginning. The first is whether any crime has been committed at all. The second is what the crime is and how it was done. Of course, if Dr. Mortimer's idea is correct and we are dealing with forces outside the normal laws of nature, then our investigation must end. But we must first examine every other possibility before we return to that one. I think we will close that window again, if you do not mind. It is a strange thing, but I find that a heavy atmosphere helps deep thought. I have not gone as far as sitting in a box to think, but that would be the logical result of my beliefs. Have you thought about the case? Yes, I have thought about it a great deal during the day. What do you think of it? It is very confusing. It certainly has its own special character. There are unique points about it. That change in the footprints, for example. What do you think about that? Mortimer said that the man had walked on tiptoe along that part of the alley. He only repeated what some fool said at the inquest. Why would a man walk on tiptoe down the alley? Then what happened? He was running, Watson. Running desperately. Running for his life. Running until his heart burst, and he fell dead on his face. Running from what? That is our problem. There are signs that the man was mad with fear even before he began to run. How can you say that? I assume that the cause of his fear came to him from the moor. If that is true, and it seems very likely, only a man who had lost his reason would run away from the house instead of toward it. If the gypsy's statement is true, he ran crying for help in the direction where help was least likely to be found. And again, whom was he waiting for that night? And why did he wait in the yew alley instead of in his own house? You think he was waiting for someone? The man was old and weak. We can understand him taking an evening walk, but the ground was wet and the night was unpleasant. Is it natural that he would stand for 5 or 10 minutes, as Dr. Mortimer, who showed more practical sense than I expected, concluded from the cigar ash? But he went out every evening. I think it unlikely that he waited at the moor gate every evening. On the contrary, the evidence shows that he avoided the moor. Yet that night he waited there. It was the night before he was to leave for London. The matter is becoming clear, Watson. It is beginning to make sense. Would you please hand me my violin, and we will delay any further thought about this case until we have met Dr. Mortimer and Sir Henry Baskerville tomorrow morning.